Hello, I'm Tony Glover with the Cullman County Extension Office, and I'm here today with Travis Kress from the Cullman Soil and Water Conservation District, and we're demonstrating the use of some plasticulture systems that growers can take advantage of if they want to grow vegetables on plasticulture. So, Travis, tell us a little bit about why you guys got into plasticulture business.
Part of the reason we got into this plasticulture business is part of the Soil and Water Conservation District is we're all about protecting the groundwater, protecting our soils, and plasticulture is a new method that's getting farmers away from the conventional, get out there, beat the soil to death with a tiller, watch it run off down the hill. So plasticulture, it locks the soil in, locks the nutrients in, just real great for the soil, good to build soil health, and there's a big push with the USDA now for soil health. So that's where we started this grant. We saw the funds available, had interest from our local farmers that we knew the equipment was going to get used and our funds was going to go to good use.
I know from an extension standpoint, I get calls on this usually every year, and then people start asking about the cost of the equipment, and maybe they're small farmers that only have an acre or two of vegetables and they sell at the local farmers market. That's a real heavy cost to bear if an individual farmer wants to get into this business.
Right, yes. The equipment that we have available through our office for this is ranging about $15,000 for a farmer to start up. Starting costs are getting extreme. With this particular program, all you have to do is own a tractor. We bought the smallest equipment that the Rainflow company offers. If you have about a 35, 40 horsepower tractor, you can go farming for $50 a day per piece of equipment to lay the plastic, the planter, and lift it up and clean it up.
Well, that was kind of my next question to ask you. I know this is a new program for you. How is it going to work for farmers? If they are interested in it, what do they need to do?
They need to contact our local Cullman County Soil and Water Conservation District. The phone number there is 256-734-1431. You can give us a call, get on the schedule. If you have any questions, we'll be glad to answer them. I do plasticulture on the side away from my job, so I can answer some questions. And if not, I know the right people to refer you to that I go to as my sources.
If a farmer is new to this technology and they came to you and said, why would I even want to use plastic to grow crops on? What are some advantages of growing crops on plastic?
The advantages of growing a crop on plastic, with the labor up front is intense as far as laying the plastic and maybe getting the planting. But when you get the plants out, there's very rarely any weeding. Your nutrients is in a drip line that is laid up under the plastic, if you can see. You put the nutrients directly to the plant's roots. It's not being wasted. It's not being washed away. You're putting the source right where it needs to be. There's no waste, so you're getting optimum dollar. And Mike Reeves at Extension Service this morning showed us that plants are getting 3 to 5 times the yield, so the profit is maximized all the way around.
Can growers take advantage of planting a little bit earlier if they use plasticulture?
Yes, we discussed that this morning in our workshop. Usually you're looking at about a 3-week early crop, which is all about, if you're going local farmers markets, you want to be the first one there with it, so everyone has to come see you to get what they're looking for. So you're looking at about a 3-week advantage, and you can change the colors of the plastic to get different soil temps. Start out with a black plastic, get the earlier crops, then lay some white plastic to get a longer crop, a longer season in with it.
In terms of expense, if the growers want to rent the equipment, what other expenses are they going to have involved in going with plasticulture?
One of your first expenses before you even consider plasticulture, you need to look at is your water source, where you're going to get your water, whether or not you're going to do county water, whether or not you want to drill a well, or you have a well or a pump in a pond. If you do the wells and the pumps, you're going to need to make sure you have a good filtration system to make sure the drip line does not get clogged up and you're not getting nutrients to the plant. Past that, you're going to have to buy your plastic, then the drip line and all the connections to get the water from the source to the plastic.
If a small grower, I know this plastic comes in large rolls that have several thousand feet on the roll, and the drip tape's the same way. If a small grower comes along and he says, I'm really not able to do that much, I just want to try maybe 10 100-foot rows just to see if it's going to be an advantage for me to get a little bit of early crop for the market. Is there any way that they can get involved even though they couldn't really afford to buy a large amount of this material?
We're working on a program now. We have nothing set in stone as far as that. We're planning on the district, Soil and Water Conservation District, buying the plastic, buying the drip line, and splitting a row up where we'll come out and measure by a per footage basis. You can pay us by the footage. Then you're not looking at the whole roll. This is all preliminary stuff right now. We're working on trying to get this finalized.
What crops? I'm sure some crops do better on plastic than other crops. What are the crops that are grown in our area that growers could expect to do well on plastic?
Tomatoes, watermelons, strawberries is a big thing. The main thing I look at when I'm doing a crop on it is the money that I'm going to bring. I don't want to put a crop out there, say maybe peas, it's not going to bring as much return on my money to lay the plastic, because it takes the same amount of money to lay the plastic for a crop of lower value than a crop for higher value. So just want to make sure you get the maximum, your more expensive, high value crops to get your return on your plastic.
And I'm assuming things that would really benefit from getting a little head start on the season, maybe like okra or squash, would be some
Yeah, okra,
potential crops to grow.
squash, tomatoes is a big thing. It's a high yielding, high return that I see a lot of plastic laid on.
Well, thanks a lot, Travis. We're going to talk to maybe a grower or two and
All
see
right.
how they've used it in the past.
All right,
Thanks.
thank you.
I'm here with William Burks, and we're still talking plasticulture. William, I know you've been doing this a little while. Some of the growers that were here today for the demonstration training, this is all new to them. Talk to us a little bit about, from your perspective as someone who's used plastic for a while, what are some of the crops that you grow on plastic?
Well, I grow strawberries. I grow a lot of fruits and vegetables, especially tomatoes, cantaloupes, watermelon, squash, cucumbers, and etc. And I've tried. Some of them works really well. Some of them, it's got a little bugs in them. But as far as the production that you increase, it's well worth the expense because it costs you more per acre to put out. When you're putting out plastic, plus the irrigation system and everything, you got a little bit more invested. But on years when it's a drought, it pays off.
So you mentioned that it pays off in those years when it's a drought because you're conserving water. You don't use much water. What are some of the other advantages to using plastic and going with this extra expense?
Well, as most of your customers this day and time, they like it to look pretty, and plastic will keep the dirt off the produce, because when dirt splashes up on produce, it brings off the shine, and this lets the tomatoes shine, and the cantaloupes are smoother, and even your watermelons or even your cucumbers, they're more smoother looking than the
I can imagine that cleanliness issue is a big deal with strawberries.
Oh yes, yes. And then, even when it rains, it sheds water off, and it helps in that sense too.
Do you have crops where you actually get a double use out of the plastic, or is it just one crop and that's all you get out of it?
Some crops you can double with, but unless you really have to be on your toes when you double with. Make sure you keep everything. Your fertilization, there's a little more trouble in your second crop because you have to pump more of your fertilizer through the drip lines, and there's a little more trouble in it. And you just sort of have to weigh out, see which is the best for you. Some it's good for, some of it ain't.
Do you get a little increase in earliness with crops, and is that one of the reasons you use plastic?
Oh yes, it especially squashes, your cubrits, squashes, cantaloupes, watermelons, and stuff like that. You can plant them in plants, and the plastic heats the ground up, and it keeps that plant growing, and that's the name of the key. Just to keep it growing.
We've talked a lot about, and I did with Travis as well, the advantages. Are there any headaches or disadvantages with plastic for a new grower that's getting into it? They need to know the good and the bad.
There's a lot to learn. And the first time I laid plastic, I've wondered if I'd ever do it again. But once you learn, it's just like farming. You have to learn the system, and the system, once you learn it, you tweak it the way it fits you.
And the startup cost for getting in plasticulture can be pretty expensive for really small growers. Do you think this type program will benefit those real new growers or small growers?
Oh yes, because when I first started, I didn't have money to buy the machine. I actually had a neighbor to lend me the machine to get started until I was in it several years to be able to invest that kind of money. I wish this program was here 20 years ago, because that's how long I've been doing it.
Well, thank you very much, William. Appreciate it.